My job today, Wayne is renowned for not liking interviews, particularly media interviews, but Wayne and I get on all right, so I'm hoping to get some of the benefits of his wisdoms and not the one-liners and getting told to get stuff like most of the journos do when they interview him. So be gentle with me, Wayne. But the theme of today's talk, as you can see, is being the very best version of you that you can be. And whether you're into sport, business, whatever your passion in life is, I think that's important that we all be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And Wayne has helped countless hundreds of young people be the best version they can be, often in the world of sport, of course, but he's done a fantastic job. It's been a pleasure for me to work with him over the last 2.5 years and see him develop young men. As Thomas said, Wayne's a renowned coach. He's won 7 premierships. He's won more than any other coach in the history of rugby league. He's coached over 959 first-class games and won 590 with a winning percent of 61.5%, the most winningest coach in the history of the game. He's, as I said, he's coached Queensland, Australia, even England and Great Britain, won World Cups. Has pretty much done everything there is to do in sport. So after that nice introduction, Wayne, you might have some pearls of wisdom for us.
Hear myself speak.
Very good. And he's actually good with a one-liner, believe it or not, contrary to what you might hear. And I just do want to thank Wayne. In seriously, though, when Thomas asked to extend an invitation to Wayne, Wayne gets invited to speak at a lot of different events and very rarely accepts. But once he knew the passion of Thomas and his team and the theme of giving back, and particularly this theme of being the best version that you can be, Wayne was more than happy to give up his time. So I thank you, Wayne, for being here. All right, now that I've had all the pleasantries and niceties, we might get into it, mate. I've talked you up as a coach, but I want to talk about pre-coaching. I want you to tell us about your pre-coaching life. You're a player, you're a policeman, and that journey, how that journey took you into coaching, and probably more specifically, what lessons did you learn in that journey that, maybe from a policeman or a young player that you've carried into coaching?
Yeah, well, I never wanted to be a coach. I never ever thought about being a coach. I was brought up on rugby league, and I've lived it all my life. My father played, my uncles played, and my mother used to send me on the bus. In that era, we lived in a small country town, and they'd play teams 2 hours away, that type of stuff, and they'd all come home drunk. So my mum thought at 4 years of age, she'd put me on the bus with my father, and he'd come home sober. That didn't work. But I probably learnt most of my lessons in life sitting in the back of the bus as I grew up a little bit, and with all those players, and they lived in a small country town called Alra, which is on the Darling Downs in Queensland, and it was to have a huge impact on my life, on me personally, about what I wanted to be. They were all my heroes, and I lived near a farm, and I spent a lot of time on the farm, and they were both football players in the team, and yeah, it had a huge influence on me. And from there, I went up, made a few decisions about what I wanted to be. I think I was 14 actually, and I'd left school. I hated school. Convinced my mother I didn't have to go. She was happy as long as I worked, did something, and I said that's the deal. So I made three decisions. Which puts me here today. If I hadn't made those decisions, I wouldn't be here today. I was working in the meatworks at the time, 14 years of age, and I decided that I wanted to become a policeman. My uncle was a policeman. I admired him greatly. He coached me a little bit later on when I got a little bit older. He played for Australia in rugby league, and I was really bent on being a police officer. And my main reason for being a police officer, I wanted to help people. That was what I wanted to join the police force for. The second thing, I made a decision that I wanted to play for Australia in rugby league. I'm 14 years of age. No one told me I could really play. I just loved playing, and I thought I wanted to be like my uncle, play for Australia. And the third one was I decided not to drink alcohol, and that was the best decision I've ever made. And I decided to do that because I felt, my mother had been let down a fair bit. She'd done a great job with us, trying to bring us all up, my brothers, my brother and my sisters, and I didn't feel I wanted her laying in bed at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, worrying about where I was, and knowing if I was sober I'd be okay. And that decision, I've got no doubt, all puts me here today. not drinking one. And so at 19, I got sworn in the police force. At 21, I played for Australia, and I still haven't had a drink.
There's a bit of a funny story about Wayne not having a drink, actually. He doesn't drink, he's true to his word, but funnily enough, he's actually happy for the players to have a drink. I don't know whether he thinks, well, maybe it's a way for them to bond and let their guard down, or he can see the kind of person they are. And I remember when he started here at the Rabbitohs, and one of the first things he did, he took the boys out for a couple of drinks and said, we're just going to get to know each other. Wayne was just drinking soft drink, and got to the third pub, and the publican comes up to Wayne and says, mate, you've got to go. I said, what? I said, you've got to leave. Wayne said, which player? He said, no, not the players. They're fine to stay, Mr. Bennett, but you have to leave. Wayne's got the frown on as usual. Thinking, what do I have to leave for? And the publican said, because happy hour starts in 10 minutes. He's heard me tell that one a few times. He still hasn't laughed. So Wayne, you spoke about your time in the meatworks, and as a policeman, as a young man, you would have saw a lot. You would have experienced a lot. Was there anything that you saw in there that helped shape your philosophy in your coaching?
Oh, I just think my growing up shaped my philosophy. I admired a lot of those men, and I tried to be like a lot of those men. My uncle, for example, was an extremely tough guy. He was a sergeant of police, and he played for Australia, and he went away in the 1948-49 Kangaroos. Had a huge reputation for toughness, and he had an attitude of not saying too much. So what I learned from him was to shut my mouth. People listen more when you say less. And his favourite saying was, Wayne, don't tell the bastards anything and don't take them anywhere. So that had a pretty big influence on a young boy.
I've seen that in your interviews. You did take that to heart, absolutely.
I did. I love the spirit they played with what they played the game with. And then my farmer friend, he was a wonderful man, and he was so respectful of everybody. He was probably a pretty well-off guy, pretty financial, but he could talk to the guy working on the council. He could talk to the housekeeper, and treat them all the same. And that had a big influence on me, how he treated people, how he was respected within the community, how he never left a group and started bagging the people that he was been talking to, which I saw in life later on. A lot of people could do that. So that had a big influence on me as well about the personality that I wanted to be. And
so that obviously did, help shape to the person you want to be. And I want to talk about your coaching now. I spoke about some of your successes. As I said, you've won Origin, you won more grand finals than the other coach, you won international matches, World Cups, all those kind of things. But I want to get down to the main question straight of all. What's the secret sauce? What are the key principles, I guess, that have made you successful in your coaching?
yeah, I don't really know, to be honest with you. I don't waste much time evaluating myself that way about what's been successful for me, what hasn't been. I spend most of my time making sure that I'm doing things that are proper, treat people with respect and dignity, and after that, there's a great line that says a copy's worth a lot more than the original. Original's worth a lot more than the copy. So I just try to be myself as much as I can, and not try to be somebody else who has a reputation, who has a persona, whatever. So I don't really know what works for me as coach. I just try and be Wayne every day. And if you like Wayne, that's great. If you don't, that's fine, because Wayne's probably in his own world, and he can get along with himself, and he doesn't get the shits with himself too much.
Okay, so I want to ask, one of the things we're talking about, being the best version of you that you can be, and we spoke about all your success as a coach, but you're not always winning. We don't always win in life, and we have challenges. What about when you've got a player who is a good player, is a good person, but they're underperforming. How do you get the best out of someone like that when they're in a bit of a rut like that?
Yeah, well, it's, that's one of the fallacies of life. You don't get the best out of anybody. That's a decision that you make. You can't motivate the unmotivated. People think you can motivate. I can't motivate you. I've got no chance of motivating you. If you're not interested in something, you don't want to do something. You're all parents, you're young people yourself sitting around here. Look at your own children. The amount of times you get frustrated with them because they won't do something you want them to do. So I kind of don't go down that path. And motivation is 100% personal. So what motivates me to do something may not interest you, and you may not want to be motivated to do that. And that's the reality of it, and that's the honesty of it. And your challenge and my challenge is to get the best out of ourselves. No one else can get it out for you. I can create, my job as a coach is to create the environment where you come into the workplace and it's well run and it's well organised and we all know what we're doing and there's a good culture there and there's good people there. We all work in that environment really well, but that's my job as a coach, is to create that. Now, whether you buy into it or not, that's your choice as a player. So it's no different in the household, in the home. Some homes you go into, you just walk in there and it's a great home because you can feel the warmth when you walk through the door. You go to another place and you can feel the cold and the emptiness and there's no life in there. That's a place you don't want to be. But someone's in there, young kids, whatever, growing up. And so as a coach, I want you to walk into my change room and feel that environment is, I can learn here, I can be my best here. No one's going to stop me, no one's going to hold me back. So, my question to you is, what are you creating? You personally, what vibe are you giving out? And what's your house like? What's your workplace like? And who are you blaming? One of the things about team is everybody says to me, how do you improve the team, Wayne? Well, I improve the team by you improving yourself. That's the key. You. But we want to spend a lot of time blaming everybody else around us. Mum's fault, dad's fault. Dad's working every day to make sure you got a roof over your head, but he's not home. Teacher's fault. Who are you blaming now? And while you're doing all that, it's just holding you back, stopping you from being that person that you want to be. So my day is spent, trying to be the best I can be and happy with myself. Because if I like myself, I'm going to be a lot more friendly to everybody else in the room here. And when don't I like myself? I don't like myself when I'm not doing my best. I don't like myself when I've been arrogant, when I've been full of it, I don't give a shit. So it's, the motivation comes from within. And you've got to know what you want for you. I suppose all of my life, I've known what I've wanted for Wayne, and I know what Wayne wants to, I know what I like about Wayne, I know what I want Wayne to look like. Has that pleased everybody I've ever met? No, it hasn't. But that doesn't worry me. Because it doesn't matter what decision you see every day, whether politicians make it, whatever, there'll be someone disagree with it. We're never going to get 100% approval anyway. So I'm not looking for 100% approval. I'm looking for approval from me. I know what good manners is, I know what bad manners is. I know what good behaviour is, I know what bad behaviour is. I know what good standards are and I know what bad standards are. I know what good culture is and I know what bad culture is. So I make a choice. And no one can influence that choice except myself. We were talking before about, the amount of advice you get when you're a coach. If you start listening to it all, you'll finish up. Or if you start listening to the fans, the line goes that you'll finish up sitting with them. Every day I get a lot of help from people that are well-meaning, but I've got to be strong enough to say, hey, I don't need to hear that. I've got to be strong enough to know that what I'm doing is right and I'm going on the right path. What the stats don't tell you, I just about failed at everything I tried to do in my life. I failed the police exam to go in when I was 16 years of age. I failed. I left school at grade 8. I didn't have a lot of education. I had a choice. Do I give up now and go back and work on the meatworks? But I was better than that. I didn't want that. I wanted to be a police officer. I was 18, I couldn't make the local rep team in Warwick, where I was brought up as a kid. I couldn't make the team. I was 21 and I played for Australia. And then, you know, when I got into coaching, I failed at coaching initially. Didn't, you know, I remember my mother-in-law saying to me after a bad defeat in the grand final, why don't you give it up, Wayne? It's long before I come into the NRL. And I just looked at her and I said, I'm not giving it up. I'm better than this. And too often, you know, we walk away when we're trying to be our best. We walk away because it gets tough. I'm going to tell you, it gets tough. It gets bloody tough. You know that. But if you don't believe in you, I can't believe in you. Okay? I can take you there. I can take you to the water, but I can't make you drink. So when you go back to your question on the player that's got all the ability in the world and he's not, you know, not playing to that, but it's because of a choice that he's making. I got to know that whether I'm a parent or a coach, I got to know my son or my daughter or my player is not making the choice because it's his choice, because I've created everything possible I possibly can to create the right environment for that person to be the best they can be. And that's all I want to know. So if you don't make it as a player, I got to know I did the absolute best I could by you. I give you every opportunity, and I'll stay with you longer than most other coaches will, just to make sure I'm not wrong, because I don't want to be wrong. I do not want to be wrong. I want you to succeed. But if you're making choices that are killing that, then I've got to be strong enough to walk away from that. Now, as I say to the players, I don't criticise players to belittle them, to make them small, to make them feel inferior. That's not who I am. Can't do that. But I criticise you because I want you to be better. And too often you see criticism as a negative rather than someone is trying to help you to make you better. So, you know, we're all adults in the room here. The one thing we've learned on our journey is about choices. And the choices you've made have put you where you are right now today. Good, bad, or indifferent. Like if I'm going to buy a house and I buy the wrong house, I don't blame anyone else but me, because I made the choice. It was my choice to buy that house. You want to tell me a whole lot of stuff. Right? But the bottom line is I make the choice. And if I make a bad choice, then I've got to own it. It's not somebody else's fault, but we live in a society at the moment, it's everybody else's fault.
Wayne, you know, the opposite side to the same question, to the same coin is, what about when sides are performing well or individuals are performing really well? How do you get them to maintain that and be at a high level for so long? You personally, I know you have some standards you set for yourself, of course, which we've heard a little bit about. But how do you help players be at their best and have a sustained positive performance?
Well, there's just one word, and you know most of you don't want to hear it, but it's called consistency. Okay, you got to have consistent habits, good, bad, or indifferent. But you know, if you've got a lot of bad habits, I want to see them being consistent, because then I know what I'm dealing with. I hate it when I see you do something really good after you've spent 3 days doing something really bad. And I talked to a young player about 12 or 18 months ago. He'd just come out of jail. He'd done 9 months in jail. I said, what'd you learn about jail? He said, I liked it. Shit. Imagine what family he was brought up in. I said, yeah, well, I said, what'd you like about it? He said, all my life, he said, I've been trying to get a routine and I couldn't get it. He said, in there I got a routine. He said, I had to be out of bed at 6 o'clock every morning, into bed at 5 o'clock, whatever it was. I had to be here at certain times. He said, and I finally found how to get a routine in my life, which is the same word as consistency. Consistently doing things time over time. You know, Michael Buten's here today. He's an ex-player, not that many years ago, but you know, the biggest challenge they all have when they become ex-players is that they get out of routine. They are so routine driven and consistency driven by, you know, training, playing, all that. When they leave the game, they have a lot of problems, a lot of young men. And in all sports, not just our sport, because they don't have the routine anymore. It's a bit like leaving school and going to university. You know, no one kind of gives a damn if you don't turn up at university. No one gives a damn if you don't really learn anything. There's not some teacher over your shoulder all the time, and our life's the same. So, yeah, consistency and routine are just absolutely everything. And the better you make those habits and the more successful you'll be, and that's what the really good players do. They've got a very strong routine, they're very disciplined with it, and they live it. And, you know, so it's not one day on, one day off and up and down like yo-yos. And that's what we drive, that's what we see from them. And they come to training, they train hard, and they leave, and they lead a lifestyle away from there that's conducive to, you know, coming back to train again, and then they go and play hard. So, and the really great teams have that thread that runs through their veins, and it's a part of their culture.
Wayne, you spoke about, you know, consistency and habits and having good habits. I know you're a creature of habit. What are some of your good habits?
Well, I exercise every day. I've done that since I was about 16. So that's really important to me. It's probably the most important thing I do for myself. I'm a sticker for being on time. Because if you're not on time, you're just telling me that you're more important than everybody else. You know, we've all got 24 hours in a day and 7 days in the week, and some of us use it much better than others, but no one's got more time than anyone else. And so why would you be late for a meeting when all the rest of us have got to be there? Because all you're telling us that you're more important, and we can all kind of wait for you. Well, we can't wait for you. Yeah, I'm consistent with my answers. If you ask me for something, it'll probably be no. Then I can think about it, and if I change my mind, I can do that. But if I say yes and I don't like what I said yes, I shouldn't have said yes, and I've kind of got no comeback position because I've told you yes. So I don't get asked a lot of questions now because I know they're going to get no. So I'm consistent in that. I'm consistent in my messaging. I work really hard at that, and I'm consistent that I live along the same principles that I ask them to live. I can't stand coaches, and I can't stand people that have two standards, one for them and one for the rest of the team. I just can't do that. I can't live that life. So whatever the boys are doing, you know, I'm at an age in my life now, I probably could be doing other things, but I don't want to. I understand when I take the coaching job, then I'm going to have to spend a lot of time on buses, planes, late nights, a whole lot of stuff that maybe I don't want to do because I've done it for 40 years. But if I don't want to do them, then I don't take the job because I'm going to have a double standard, and that just can't happen. Because you watch me, you watch everything I do. Just like we did as kids, we watched our parents. You know, I was writing an article for the newspaper a long time ago when we had better relationships. And it was on role models. And my daughter was about 12, and I was at the table struggling with a few things, trying to get my head around it. And I said, Beth, who's your role model? And she looked at me and she said, are you serious, Dad? I said, yeah, I said, I'm serious. Who's your role models? She said, you and Mum. And as silly as it sounded, you know, I had never thought about my daughter as looking at me every day of the week, everything that I said, every action that I took, and was making that muscle memory, you know, Dad handled it this way, Dad said this, Dad said that about someone else, whatever it was. And so, you know, I get a bit offended when I only read in the paper about, you know, players being role models. Every one of you in this room is a role model. And you don't take the responsibility that you should with it. And it's easy for you to blame others then, but we all look for role models. So when I was growing up, I talked about my uncle, I talked about the old farmer, but I didn't know they were role models. I didn't think about role models, but they were men that I admired, and I watched what they did. And on the reverse of that, I watched what my father did, and I promised myself I would never be like that. And so, you know, we all have a great responsibility, but we don't take it. You want to blame the football players for their bad behaviour sometimes and say they've been poor role models, but what about your behaviour? What about your reaction to situations? What about your conversations that your kids hear? So we're all in the position where we all have a great deal of responsibility. And so as a coach, I wear that very highly because you give us your sons. And I don't want to let you down. I don't want that we didn't give your son every opportunity and helped him to be the best player that he could be and in the best culture. Because I value what you give up and I love working with them. But I'll tell you this, if you want to really be something really, really well in your life, really well, and it's all in your power to do it, just be the best parent you can. Because I don't think you have any greater responsibility. Because I see all the products of the parents, and some of them turn up and they don't really have a chance because they haven't been given a chance. And it breaks my heart. And we make them better and we get them in a better place, but they'll never be the men that they should have been. And the other boys come out of wonderful families. You see the love, the attention, all the things that they need. And they go on to become great players and model citizens. So I learned a long time ago, I have no greater responsibility. And, you know, regardless of my successes as a coach, the thing I gauged myself on more than that was the dad that I am. It's been more important to me. I didn't want to fail with my own children. I didn't want that to happen. Because I'd seen a lot of failures and I still see them today. It's heartbreaking.
Wayne, just, you know, as a father and as a coach, you know, you've dealt with young people for 30, 40 years now, and are they different now, or probably more specifically, how you manage young people today? Do you manage the young men differently now to how you would have 30, 40 years ago?
No, I don't. Nothing's changed. One thing has changed. There is one thing. They're not as resilient as they were. Young men today are not as resilient. That's why we've got so many suicides. Okay, and again, you know, who are we going to blame? Well, it all comes back to home with me. You know, how we brought them up, what we've done. You know, we can blame the teachers again, we can blame the coaches, but the kids are not as resilient as they were. But everything else I find the same. They want to be successful, they want to pay a price, they want to work hard, they've got good work ethics, well-mannered, a lot of them, respectful, all those things that are important, have been for 40 odd years for me, are still there today. I don't have to pull a guy into gear about any of that stuff. And they just want the right environment to come in so they can pursue that career and the right culture and the right club. I mean, you know, the young boys that, you know, go to clubs that are poor, they have a great disadvantage. They've got this one chance. They've got about a 12 or 14-year opportunity to be the best they can be, and after that, it's gone on them. And if they make the wrong choice and go to the wrong club, and they've got, you know, all the things that the reverse of the good clubs, then that opportunity for most of those is gone and lost. But they want to work hard and they want to be successful. And we've got 18 and 9-year-olds working with our squad now. They train as hard as everybody else, all that stuff. But I'll come back to the resilient part. And, you know, we've created that. You know, there are no soft landings. I mean, the reality of life is that when you grow up into adulthood, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's not, no one can protect you anymore. Mum can't protect you anymore. Dad can't protect you anymore. The school can't protect you anymore. And there's a dog-eat-dog out there some days. And if we've made them soft and we're so dependent on everything, and every time they cry, we make a big fuss of them, and every time something goes wrong in their life, we make a big fuss over that, we're not helping them. We're not helping those moments that are going to come. And they will come. And they will need your help. But, you know, my mother, close to her deathbed, said to me, she said, Wayne, I only ever want one thing for you. She said, I want you to grow into a man. And I haven't let her down, because I've seen men from the time I was a little boy, and I love those men. I love what they brought. I love their attitude. They worked hard all day, went home, raised their families, played footy on weekends, and they did it year after year.
Wayne, being a parent, being a coach, we've spoke about, you know, bringing the best out in others, but even in ourselves. So as a parent, say, or an adult here, there's lots of competing interests. You've got lots of competing interests. You've got the media vying for your attention. You've got the owners, James Packer, Russell Crowe, they own a share in our club. You've got sponsors, you've got player managers coming at you. You've got lots of competing interests. And how do you? I've spoken about how you manage that to bring the best out in others, but how do you manage that to be the best person you can be?
Well, I prioritise things. Priority number one is my family. Priority number one is the team. They both go hand in hand, and I've been asked more than once what comes first, the team or the family, but I can't answer that. That's my number one priority every day. Okay, so whoever needs me the most, I'll be there, but that's how it works for me. After that, you know, with the media or someone else, they go down the list somewhere. And if I can't get to them on a given day, then that's fine. I won't be disrespectful, I won't be bad-mannered, but I'll get to it some stage, but it might be 2 or 3 days later. I don't care.
I manage managing the media to be way down the list, wouldn't it?
Oh, they're pretty tender people. They don't mind bagging you and pissing me off, but they don't like being pissed off themselves. Double standards, I think it's called. Anyway, yeah, so that's my priority every day is family, team, family. And as I said, some days I don't get, someone might ring me, it might be 3 days before I ring you back. I'll ring you back. It could take me 3 days because I've got other priorities. And the last part of that is myself. I mean, I've got to manage myself well so that my lifestyle is conducive to allow me to do what I have to do every day. So not drinking has been one of the huge factors for me because I don't wake up with a headache and a hangover and I'm only half as good as I should be. I saw an American come out a few years ago and had some ex-police mates invited me to a function he was speaking at on stress and how to manage it and handle it. It was only about 5 years ago now, but you know, on the individual basis, he said there's 3 keys to it. He'd been a Marine, he'd been a New York police force, he'd done a lot of things. And he said the three key things is to have an interest outside of your job. He said that was really important. He said the second one was to get a good night's sleep. He said, and I agree with both those. And the third one was, he said, was to have a hobby, whether it's whatever it may be, right? So that you can get away from, sorry, the third one, no, the first one was a hobby. The third one was exercise. Exercise, sleep, and an interest outside of your career. Okay, it's great advice, really is. Exercise, you know, doesn't have to be running. You can go for a walk. It doesn't matter. You just find that place. You find that place where you can just get away from it all. You know, I run, well, I can't run every day now, but I used to run every day. And I'd only run for 30 minutes. I didn't want to go for more than 30 minutes. Was all I needed, 20, 30 minutes, whatever. But everybody in my family understood how important that was to me. I might run at 6 o'clock at night. I might run at 6 a.m. in the morning because I wouldn't have time in the afternoon to do it, vice versa, but I would do it. Nobody ever complained. Nobody ever said, don't do that, Wayne, because it just put me in a better place. That's all I needed, 20, 30 minutes max. And you've got to find out what you need so you can operate and be that person that you want to be. I come home, I was in a good place then, and I'd get on with life and be the dad I wanted to be and all that type of stuff. But you know, that's choices again, and you've got to be disciplined with those choices so that you can operate on that basis of being your best. You know, I said to the players, and I said, only recently to them, I've said to them a number of times, you know, if you'll just make a commitment to doing your best, you'll be absolutely surprised at what you can achieve in your life. It's a pretty simple cliche, but think about it. If you can commit yourself to being your best, not your brother's best or your sister's or the guy next door or the footy team down the road, I'm not interested in that. Doesn't turn me on one little bit. And you're the one that knows when you're at your best. No one else knows. I can, as a parent, as a coach, I can say you didn't do your best today, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't always get it right, but you know. So why do you lie to yourself when you haven't done your best? Where do you think that's going to take you? It takes you nowhere. But if you promise every day you get out of bed that you'll do your best today, and some days, you know, we mightn't feel well, whatever, just the best on the day, not tomorrow, the best on the day. As you go on to bed of a night, you can have a quick evaluation about, did you do your best today? It doesn't matter what mum says or dad says, it doesn't matter what the coach says. Because you tell me, who you're going home to live with tonight? You. You can stay here and play the pokers. You can go home at midnight, 1 o'clock, think everyone will be asleep, but you're still going to live with you. So why wouldn't I want to make myself happy? Does anybody here get happy about not doing their best? Is that really something that we all get switched on about? But not my best, your best. We've all got different ability. Because I want to wake up tomorrow morning, I want to be ready to go again, I want to be happy in myself. Yeah, there might be some situations out there I'm not going to enjoy handling today because confrontation is a part of my job, unfortunately, and I hate it, but I have to manage it. But I want to handle that really good through the day, and the better I get out of bed, the more happy I am with myself, the better I'm going to handle that. So here's a question for you. Who's putting your handbrake on? Who's stopping you? But you will find someone. But you're lying to yourself. But that's fine. That's what put you where you are today. You kept telling yourself lies. There's a thing I read about 3 years ago was about above and below the line. Above the line, you take ownership and responsibility for who you are and what you do and where you want to go in life. And below the line, you blame other people, you justify and you make excuses. 70% of us in this room today here live below the line. That's what the stats say. 70%. I'll just run through them again. You blame other people, you justify, and you make excuses. Think about your conversations in the last 24 hours. Think how many excuses you made. Think about what justification you made, and think about who you blamed. You've got all the answers. You know, people say, how do you improve yourself? Well, besides, improving the team, the other one is look at yourself in the mirror. Go and have a look in the mirror. See what's looking back at you. It's a great line I picked up on the other day. It says, don't tell me you love me. Show me you love me. And that's what we're good at. We're good at telling each other lies and no action to go with it. Just show me. And look in that mirror and just show that guy that's going to turn some things around, going to be more committed. The difference between a commitment and a promise is you're lying to yourself. Every time you promise yourself something, you just tell yourself another lie. Every time you commit to something, you know there's no fallback position. There's no rationalisation. You either do it or you don't. But that's why we don't make many commitments in our lives. We spend most of our life making promises so we can tell another lie to ourselves. Let's take New Year's resolutions. Not the greatest lying place in the world. How long they last for? An hour, 2 hours, a couple of days? Yeah, so when I see guys that fail, do I feel disappointed for them? No, I don't. No, they've had choices. We've done everything we can to help them get where we want them to get, where we think they can get, but they've made choices. So I don't beat myself up on about it. I never have, never will. And if you do something silly, do I really feel sorry for you? Yeah, I do a little bit, but at the end of the day, I know you made a choice and you made a bad one. And you've got to own it. Are we there to help you still? Yeah, we are. It's a bit like care and love. We've all fallen out of love lots of times and had our moments. But when you think about care, care means a whole lot of things to me. It means I will criticise you because I do care about you. I want you to be better. It means I'll always be there for you because I care about you. You're my friend, you're my mate, you're my brother, my sister, my mum, my dad. I'll always be there for you. And, but when we don't care, when we got to that place with that person that we just know that's tearing us apart and nothing's changed with their behaviour, then sometimes we have to walk away. And I've done that to players, and it breaks my heart at the time, but I know they just keep breaking my heart the other way, and that's detrimental to everybody else in the family, whether it's family or whatever it is. Will the door always be open to them? Yes, it will, but you've got to come back and show us that you care a bit. You've got to show that what we're trying to do for you is you're buying into it. And it's tough. I had a boy, you know, kept turning up late and could really play. One of them, you know, he played, was the youngest player, one of the youngest players ever to play for the Broncos. But I just couldn't get a message through to him, so I, you know, fined him, chastised him, whatever else. So he turned up this day and I just ignored him. And he couldn't believe it, kept following me around and I just kept ignoring him. About an hour this went on. Anyway, he caught me going up the stairs somewhere and he said, "Coach, you haven't said anything to me today." I said, "No, I haven't." I said, "I don't care about you anymore, mate." I said, "You've let us down too many times here." So I said, "You can, you know, go play reserve grade, whatever." I said, "And we'll see where it all goes from there." In a month, he'd left the club. He never played football again. Because we'd gone as far as I could with him. And I had to cut my losses. So.
Well, look, you know, I've had the privilege of and the honour of doing a fair bit of Q&A with Wayne, with our sponsors and key community members who Wayne decides to give his time up with. And I always learn something new. I've certainly learned a lot today, and I think, you know, helps me be the best version of me that I can be, just taking on board some of the lessons that I learned with Wayne. I hope everybody here got a bit out of Wayne today about how they can be the best they can be and help those around them be the best they can be as well. So just on behalf of Wayne, myself, everybody at the Rabbitohs, I'd like to thank everybody for your attention and support today. Thanks.
Well, I will leave you on this little cliche, which you can think about driving home, plus a few other things. You know, teach yourself not to lie to yourself. That's the silliest thing you do. You don't have to, you know, tell other people about your secrets, but you certainly can't lie to yourself. And, you know, regarding change, you know, change takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, whether we try to change our behaviour. It's just, you know, we are who we are sometimes, and we've got to work hard ourselves to do that. But there's certain things about myself I've worked all my life on to change, and I've won a lot of battles with a lot of different stuff that I didn't like about me, and I could be better at, and I'm still at that today, and I won't give up on that as long as I've got, as long as I can breathe. But here's the little questions. If you don't make the change, then who will? Okay? If you don't make the change, who will? It's a pretty simple answer. And if you don't make the change now, when are you going to start? We're all different ages in this room here, but we've all got, you know, at least 20 years on us, the great majority of us plus. So when are you going to start? When are you really going to start to put yourself in that place where you're happy with you and where you're being the best person you can be? And if you do it only for you, then who are you? I'm part of a team, I'm part of a family, and sometimes I have to make sacrifices for all of those. And they're well worth sacrifices, because I want to be part of that. And so the question is then, we don't always just do it for ourselves. We do it because we are part of families and because we are part of a team. Thank you.